The massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council chamber displayed another failed negotiation as Ambassador Vell slumped in his chair. For the third time this month, the Crystalline Collective had walked out of trade talks with the Altarian Federation. The empty seat reserved for Earth seemed to mock them all, a reminder of the species that had simply ignored galactic civilization for over 50 years. "The humans never even responded to our last invitation," muttered Counselor Kree, her crystalline form dimming with frustration. "Perhaps they destroyed themselves with their primitive weapons." Around the vast circular chamber, representatives from 300 worlds nodded in agreement. Earth had been offered membership in galactic society when their crude ships first appeared at the edge of known space. The invitation had been generous, offering technology transfers and protected status as a developing species. The response had been a polite refusal. Earth needed time to consider such an important decision. That was 53 years ago. What the galaxy did not know was that every word spoken in the chamber was being recorded and analyzed in a hidden facility buried beneath the ice of Antarctica. Director Maya Walsh watched the proceedings on multiple screens while her teams processed intelligence gathered from across the galaxy. "They think we're dead or irrelevant," she said to her deputy, David Ross. "Perfect." David highlighted several reports on his display. "Latest reconnaissance confirms the military buildup continues. The Altarians have moved 400 ships to the crystalline border. The Aquatics are arming rebel groups in neutral territory. The Crystallines are testing something big in the Vega system." Mayo studied the data with grim satisfaction. The aliens had no idea they were being watched by stealth ships that could penetrate any defense system in the galaxy. Human technology had advanced far beyond anything the galactic powers possessed, built by reverse engineering captured alien equipment and improving it. Beyond recognition, the first alien probe had been detected at the edge of the solar system decades ago. Instead of making contact, human leadership had made a decision that changed everything. They would capture the probe, study its technology, and learn about galactic civilization before revealing themselves. What they discovered was a galaxy on the brink of war. 3 major powers competed for dominance while smaller species were forced to choose sides. Trade disputes escalated into military conflicts. Border skirmishes threatened to become full-scale wars. The galactic government was a facade hiding centuries of accumulated hatred and mistrust. Humanity decided to wait and watch while they built the capabilities needed to change everything. In the research laboratories scattered across the solar system, human scientists had dissected alien technology and rebuilt it with improvements that amazed even themselves. Altarian energy weapons became 3 times more powerful. Crystalline communication systems were enhanced to work across galactic distances instantly. Aquatic ship designs were modified to achieve impossible speeds. "Dr. Rodriguez has finished testing the new plasma cannons," David reported. "Energy output exceeds anything in our database of alien weapons by 40%. Maya nodded as she reviewed the test results. The weapons were impressive, but she hoped they would never be used. In anger, the goal was not conquest, but prevention of the galactic war that computer models predicted would begin within 2 years. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system worked constantly to build the fleet that would announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. 1,000 vessels of revolutionary design, each one capable of defeating entire alien battle groups. The ships combined technologies from a dozen species into something entirely new and terrifyingly effective, but technology alone would not be enough. Humanity's greatest advantage was information. For 50 years, reconnaissance ships had infiltrated every corner of galactic space. They had mapped military installations, recorded private communications, and documented the secret plans of every major power. The aliens thought they were clever with their hidden agendas and classified operations. They had no idea that human intelligence services knew more about their governments than their own leaders did. "The crystalline weapon project is proceeding faster than expected," David said, highlighting intercepts from deep space monitoring stations. "If they complete it, they'll have the ability to destroy entire star systems. Maya felt a chill despite the facility's controlled temperature. The weapon represented exactly the kind of escalation that would trigger galactic war. Something had to be done before the situation spiraled completely out of control. In orbit around Jupiter, Admiral Stone reviewed the final construction reports from the naval shipyards. The 1,000 ships of the Terran Defense Force were nearly complete, each one a masterpiece of engineering that surpassed anything currently deployed in galactic space. Final systems tests begin next week, her aide reported. The fleet will be ready for deployment within 30 days. Stone studied the tactical displays showing current galactic fleet positions. The major powers were moving their pieces into place for a conflict that would devastate civilization. Only immediate intervention could prevent the catastrophe that human analysts had predicted with mathematical certainty. The Admiral activated her communication system and sent an encrypted message to Earth. Director Walsh, this is Admiral Stone reporting. Fleet construction is 97% complete. All ships have passed their initial trials. We are ready to proceed with Operation Revelation on your command. Back in the Antarctic facility, Maya received the message and felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. For over 50 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had watched the galaxy tear itself apart through petty conflicts and territorial disputes. They had observed species make the same mistakes that humans had made centuries earlier on Earth. But humanity had learned from those mistakes. The devastating wars of their past had taught them the value of peace, the importance of cooperation, and the necessity of strong leadership when civilizations could not govern themselves. Dr. Chun, Maya called to her chief analyst, what's the latest projection on galactic conflict probability? The scientist pulled up a complex holographic model showing political tensions throughout known space. 78% chance of major war within 18 months. If the crystalline weapon becomes operational, that increases to 94%. Maya studied the projections with growing determination. The galaxy was about to repeat humanity's own violent history on a scale that would dwarf anything Earth had ever experienced. Billions of lives hung in the balance, and only immediate intervention could prevent catastrophe. She made her decision as she watched. Another shouting match erupted in the Galactic Council chamber. The aliens had proven they were incapable of resolving their differences through diplomacy. They needed a firm hand to guide them away from the abyss they were rushing toward. Send the activation orders to Admiral Stone, Maya commanded. Operation Revelation begins immediately. It's time to show the galaxy what real power looks like. The empty chair in the council chamber would soon be filled, but not in the way anyone expected. Earth's long silence was about to end with a display. A force that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Lieutenant Hayes drifted his stealth reconnaissance ship through the outer edge of the Kepler system, watching as massive Altarian mining vessels stripped precious metals from the asteroid belt. His ship, no larger than a fighter craft, was invisible to every scanning technology known to galactic science. The hull was coated with a metamaterial that absorbed sensor waves. While the engine produced no detectable emissions, for 12 years, Hayes had been one of humanity's ghost pilots, invisible observers who mapped every corner of galactic civilization. His mission logs contained detailed information about Altarian military tactics, ship classifications, and defensive capabilities that would have been worth billions of credits to their enemies. Recording another convoy departure, he whispered into his voice recorder. 17 heavy transports escorted by 4 destroyers heading toward the galactic core. Same route they've used for the past 6 months. The Altarians had no idea they were being watched. Their security was designed to detect conventional threats, not ships that existed beyond their understanding of stealth technology. Hayes had observed their mining operations, recorded their patrol schedules, and even listened to private conversations between their commanders. Similar reconnaissance was taking place throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of human observers had become living shadows, documenting everything from military installations to trade negotiations. They watched crystalline science expeditions, monitored aquatic diplomatic meetings, and tracked the movement of every major fleet in known space. back on Earth. The intelligence flowed into vast databases that painted a comprehensive picture of galactic civilization. Director Walsh stood in the analysis center, reviewing reports from observation posts scattered across 3 spiral arms. The information was staggering in its scope and detail. "The Crystalline Collective is developing something new," reported Analyst Kim, highlighting a section of intercepted communications. "Deep space construction project in an uninhabited system. Heavy security, classified at their highest levels." Walsh examined the decoded transmissions. The Crystallines were building something massive, something they were keeping secret even from their closest allies. "Any visual confirmation?" "Hayes got close enough last week to take photographs." Kim activated a holographic display showing a massive ring-shaped structure under construction around a small moon. "It's unlike anything in our database." The structure was clearly a weapon of some kind, though its exact purpose remained unclear. What worried Walsh was the timing. Intelligence suggested that all 3 major powers were developing new military technologies in secret, preparing for a conflict that would reshape galactic politics. In the Titan system, Admiral Stone reviewed the latest fleet readiness reports. The 1,000 ships of the Terran Defense Force were nearing completion, each one a testament to human engineering prowess. The vessels incorporated stealth technology, energy weapons, and defensive systems that surpassed anything currently deployed by galactic powers. "The new destroyers passed their final trials," reported her aide, Commander Blake. "All systems functioning within acceptable parameters. The fleet is ready for deployment." Stone nodded, though deployment was still months away. The timing had to be perfect. Human strategists had identified the optimal moment to reveal themselves, just as galactic tensions reached their breaking point. But before actual warfare began, the plan was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity would emerge as a stabilizing force, offering mediation and peacekeeping services to prevent the galaxy from tearing itself apart. The massive fleet would provide the necessary authority to make their words carry weight. Hayes continued his reconnaissance mission, following the Altarian convoy toward the galactic core. His route took him past the neutral trading station of Haven Port, where representatives from dozens of species conducted business under the protection of ancient treaties. He watched cargo vessels from 100 different worlds dock at the massive station. Trade was the lifeblood of galactic civilization, connecting distant species through networks of commerce and diplomacy. But Hayes could see the cracks forming in these relationships. Altarian ships refused to dock at the same ports as crystalline vessels. Aquatic traders were being denied access to certain sectors. Military escorts were becoming more common, turning peaceful merchant convoys into armed flotillas. "The galaxy's coming apart," Hayes muttered to himself as he watched a tense standoff between rival security forces. "They just don't know it yet." His observations were shared by reconnaissance teams throughout known space. Human intelligence had identified dozens of potential flashpoints, where old grievances and competing interests were pushing species toward conflict. The computer models were unanimous in their predictions. Massive warfare was inevitable unless something changed. Director Walsh understood the implications better than anyone. She had spent 20 years analyzing galactic politics, watching species repeat the same mistakes that had plagued Earth throughout its own violent history. The aliens were no different from humans in their capacity for greed, hatred, and short-sighted thinking, but humanity had learned from its mistakes. The devastating wars of the 20th and 21st centuries had taught them the cost of unchecked aggression. They had developed systems of international cooperation, conflict resolution, and peaceful coexistence that could serve as a model for galactic civilization. The question was whether the galaxy would accept human guidance before it was too late. In the research laboratories beneath Luna City, scientists worked to perfect the technologies that would give humanity its edge. They had reverse-engineered alien computers, improved upon alien weapons, and developed new applications for alien discoveries. The humans had become masters of adaptation, taking the best ideas from every species they encountered and combining them into something greater than the sum of its parts. Their ships were faster than aquatic vessels, their weapons more powerful than Altarian cannons, their sensors more sensitive than crystalline arrays, but technology alone would not be enough. Humanity's greatest advantage was their patience and their willingness to learn. They had spent 50 years studying galactic civilization, understanding its strengths and weaknesses, identifying the root causes of conflict and instability. Hayes completed his reconnaissance mission and began the long journey back to human space. His ship's databases contained terabytes of new intelligence that would be analyzed, cataloged, and incorporated into humanity's growing understanding of galactic politics. The time for watching was almost over. Soon the galaxy would discover that Earth had not been ignoring their invitations but preparing to answer them in a way that would change everything. The emergency alarm echoed through the corridors of Harmony. Stationed as long-range sensors detected something that should have been impossible. Admiral Tane rushed to the command center, his scales shifting from their normal blue to the dark purple that indicated extreme agitation among his species. "Report?" he barked at the sensor operator, a nervous young Altarian who had never seen readings like the ones filling his displays. "Unknown fleet approaching the station, sir. Configuration doesn't match any vessels in our database." "They're big, sir? Really big?" Tane studied the sensor readings with growing disbelief. The approaching ships were massive, easily dwarfing the largest vessels in the combined galactic fleets. Their design was unlike anything he had ever seen, combining elements from dozens of different technological traditions into something entirely new. "How many ships?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. 1,000, sir, all identical." "All unknown." The command center fell silent except for the soft humming of computer systems struggling to process the unprecedented readings. 1,000 warships of unknown origin approaching the most important diplomatic station in the galaxy. It was either a miracle or a disaster, and Tane suspected it was the latter. Emergency protocols activated throughout Harmony Station as representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the main council chamber. The massive viewing screen displayed the approaching fleet in perfect formation, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of nearby stars. Ambassador Vel took his place at the Altarian delegation's table, his normally steady hands trembling slightly as he reviewed the sensor data. "Have we received any communication from these vessels?" "Nothing yet," replied the station's communication officer. "But they're broadcasting on standard diplomatic frequencies." "Signal incoming now." The council chamber fell silent as the transmission began. The image that appeared on the viewing screen was startling in its normalcy, a middle-aged human woman in a crisp military uniform, standing on what appeared to be the bridge of one of the mysterious vessels. "Greetings, Galactic Council. This is Fleet Admiral Stone of the Terran Defense Force. We apologize for our prolonged absence from your meetings, but we have been occupied with matters of galactic security." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once, their various languages creating a cacophony of confusion and disbelief. The humans, the species that had ignored galactic civilization for half a century, had just announced themselves with the largest fleet anyone had ever seen. Ambassador Vel managed to activate his delegation's microphone above the noise. "Admiral Stone, Earth's absence from council meetings has been noted for 53 years. This sudden appearance with such a significant military force requires explanation." Stone's expression remained calm and professional. "The explanation is quite simple, Ambassador. We have been watching, learning, preparing for this moment when our intervention would become necessary." "Intervention?" The word came from Counselor Cree, her crystalline form resonating with harmonic frequencies that indicated severe agitation. "You speak as though you have authority over galactic affairs. We speak as the only species in this galaxy with both the capability and the motivation to prevent the catastrophic war that is now inevitable," Stone replied. "Our analysis indicates a 73% probability of total galactic conflict within the next 18 months. The chamber erupted again, but this time the chaos had a different quality. The delegates were no longer just confused. They were frightened. The humans were discussing their internal affairs with the casual confidence of beings who knew far more than they should. Director Walsh appeared beside Stone on the transmission, her presence adding weight to the already grave situation. 4. 50 years we have observed your species, your governments, your military preparations. We have watched 3 major powers position fleets for first strikes, while smaller species are forced to choose sides in a war that will destroy millions of worlds. The viewing screen changed to display detailed star maps showing fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Every major military installation, every hidden base, every secret weapon project was marked with the casual precision of a species that had been watching everything. The Altarian Federation has massed 400 ships along the crystalline border, Walsh continued. The Crystalline Collective has constructed a planet-killing weapon in the Vega system. The Aquatic Commonwealth has been secretly arming rebel factions on 17 frontier worlds. Each revelation struck the council chamber like a physical blow. The representatives stared at intelligence information that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. Their most closely guarded military secrets were being displayed for the entire galaxy to see. Ambassador Vel felt his blood turn cold as the display showed Altarian battle plans that had been classified at the highest levels of government. How could you possibly know about Operation Starfall? Because we have been everywhere you thought you were alone, Stone answered. Every shadow, every empty system, every asteroid field you dismissed as worthless. We have been your neighbors for 50 years and you never noticed. The implications were staggering. If the humans could observe classified military operations without detection, what else had they been doing? How long had they been watching? What technologies had they developed in secret? The fleet on the viewing screen seemed to pulse with menace, each vessel representing capabilities that exceeded anything the galactic powers could deploy. The humans had not just been absent from galactic politics. They had been preparing to dominate them. What do you want? Asked Representative Mora of the Aquatic Commonwealth, her voice carrying the subsonic harmonics that indicated deep fear among her species. We want to prevent the war that will destroy galactic civilization, Walsh replied. We want to establish stability, promote peaceful cooperation, and ensure that the younger species have the opportunity to develop without being crushed by the ambitions of their neighbors. And if we refuse your intervention? Counselor Kree's harmonic frequencies had shifted to tones that indicated desperate defiance. Stone smiled, and there was something terrible in that expression. Then we will protect the innocent species caught in the crossfire of your war. These 1,000 ships represent less than 10% of current Terran Defense Force capabilities. The statement hit the council chamber like a thunderbolt. If this massive fleet was only a small fraction of human military power, then Earth had become the dominant force in the galaxy without anyone realizing it. You're threatening us, Ambassador Val said, though his voice lacked conviction. We're offering you a choice, Walsh corrected. Continue on your current path toward mutual destruction, or accept Earth as a mediating force capable of resolving your conflicts peacefully. The viewing screen returned to showing the human fleet, now holding position just outside Harmony stations. Defense perimeter. 1,000 ships waiting for an answer that would determine the future of galactic civilization. The galaxy had spent 50 years wondering what had happened to humanity. Now they knew, and the answer was more terrifying than anything they could have imagined. The council chamber had never experienced such complete silence. 300 representatives from across the galaxy sat frozen in their seats, staring at the human fleet displayed on the massive viewing screen. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering that made their own vessels look like primitive toys. Fleet Admiral Stone allowed the silence to stretch for several long moments before continuing her address. We understand that our sudden appearance has been shocking. For this reason, we will provide you with complete transparency regarding our capabilities and intentions. The display changed to show detailed schematics of human vessels, their weapons, systems clearly superior to anything in the galactic arsenal, energy outputs that exceeded theoretical maximums, defensive systems that could withstand planet-cracking weapons, propulsion technology that redefined the meaning of speed. These ships incorporate improvements to technologies originally developed by your own species, Stone explained. Altarian energy shields enhanced to 97% efficiency. Crystalline communication arrays modified for instantaneous galactic transmission. Aquatic propulsion systems redesigned to achieve faster-than-light speeds previously thought impossible. Ambassador Vel felt his heart racing as he recognized design elements from closely guarded Altarian military projects. Those schematics are classified at the highest levels of our government. How did you obtain them? We didn't obtain them, Ambassador. We observed them. Every test flight, every weapons trial, every classified briefing has been monitored by our reconnaissance forces for the past 2 decades. Director Walsh stepped forward, her expression grave but determined. We have documentation of every secret meeting between your 3 major powers. Audio recordings of planning sessions for first strikes. Visual confirmation of weapon deployments that violate dozens of galactic treaties. The viewing screen shifted to display a series of intelligence reports that made the assembled delegates gasp in recognition. Private conversations between military leaders, classified deployment orders, secret diplomatic communications that were never meant to be shared. The Altarian Federation's Operation Starfall calls for simultaneous strikes against 17 crystalline mining colonies. Walsh continued. The Crystalline Collective's Project Resonance has developed a weapon capable of destabilizing star systems. The Aquatic Commonwealth's Deep Current Initiative has established hidden bases in neutral territory. Each revelation sent shockwaves through the appropriate delegations. Military secrets that should have been impossible to discover were being displayed with casual precision. The humans had not just been watching. They had been recording everything. Counselor Kree's crystalline form resonated with frequencies that indicated profound distress. Even if your intelligence is accurate, what gives you the right to interfere in galactic affairs? Earth rejected our invitation to join civilized society. We rejected your invitation to participate in a broken system, Stone corrected. Your so-called civilized society is built on the threat of mutual destruction. 3 major powers maintain peace through fear, while smaller species are treated as pawns in your political games. The human admiral gestured toward the assembled delegates. In the past 50 years, how many trade wars have devastated developing worlds? How many border conflicts have displaced millions of beings? How many species have been driven to extinction by the indirect consequences of your political maneuvering? The questions hung in the air like accusations. Every delegate in the chamber knew the answers, though few would admit them openly. Galactic civilization had achieved technological marvels while failing to solve the basic problem of living together peacefully. Our computer models have analyzed every possible outcome of current galactic tensions, Walsh added. 73%. Probability of total war within 18 months. Estimated casualties exceed 2 billion sentient beings. Recovery time for galactic civilization, 3 to 5 centuries. The projections appeared on screen in stark numerical terms. Battle simulations showing the progression of galactic war. Casualty estimates broken down by species and system. Economic analyses predicting complete civilizational collapse. Representative Mora of the Aquatic Commonwealth found her voice despite the fear that gripped her delegation. Your projections assume we are incapable of resolving our differences through diplomacy. Your track record suggests otherwise, Stone replied. The vegan trade dispute lasted 15 years and required military intervention to resolve. The crystalline expansion crisis nearly triggered galactic war 3 times. The aquatic territorial claims have been in litigation for over a century. Each example struck home with devastating accuracy. The humans had done their homework, studying every failure of galactic diplomacy with the thoroughness of scientists dissecting a specimen. We offer an alternative, Walsh announced. Earth will serve as a neutral mediator for all galactic disputes. We have no territorial ambitions, no resource conflicts with any of you, no historical grievances that would compromise our judgment. The proposal was stunning in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. The humans were offering to become the galaxy's supervisors, using their technological superiority to enforce peace whether the established powers wanted it or not. And if we refuse your generous offer? Ambassador Vel asked, though he already suspected the answer. Stone's smile was cold and professional. Then we will protect the innocent species who get caught in your crossfire. Every world, every colony, every trade route will be monitored by our forces. Any attempt to initiate aggressive action will be met with immediate intervention. The viewing screen showed the true scope of human military power for the first time. Massive shipyards orbiting Jupiter, construction facilities on Mars that dwarfed entire planets, mining operations throughout the solar system that produced resources on an industrial scale never before achieved in galactic history. The 1,000 ships you see before you represent our immediate response capability, Walsh explained. Our total fleet strength exceeds 10,000 vessels of comparable or superior design. Our industrial capacity can produce additional ships, faster than any galactic power can destroy them. The implications were clear and terrifying. Humanity had not just achieved military superiority. They had revolutionized the very concept of warfare through industrial might that made resistance futile. You're talking about conquest, Counselor Cree accused, her harmonic frequencies reaching notes that hurt sensitive ears throughout the chamber. We're talking about survival, Stone corrected. Your species' survival. This galaxy is about to commit suicide, and we're the only ones with the power to prevent it. The human admiral paused, allowing her words to sink in before delivering the final blow. You have 72 hours to make your decision. Accept Earth's mediation and begin the process of peaceful conflict resolution, or continue on your current path toward mutual destruction. We will monitor all military communications during this period. Any attempt to coordinate aggressive action will be considered a hostile act against galactic peace. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The human fleet remained visible on the viewing screen. 1,000 ships waiting patiently for an answer that would determine the future of galactic civilization. For 50 years, the galaxy had wondered what happened to humanity. Now they knew, and the knowledge was more terrifying than anything they could have imagined. Earth had not abandoned galactic society. They had been preparing to save it from itself. The question now was whether the galaxy would accept salvation or choose destruction. The transformation of galactic civilization did not happen overnight, but it happened faster than anyone had thought possible. 6 months after the fleet's arrival at Harmony Station, trade routes that had been disrupted for decades were flowing freely. Border disputes that had raged for centuries were being resolved through mediation, and the three major powers found themselves working together for the first time in recorded history. Ambassador Vel stood in his newly renovated office aboard Harmony Station, reviewing the latest diplomatic reports with a mixture of amazement and resignation. The humans had kept their word about neutrality, but their definition of neutrality was far more comprehensive than anyone had expected. The crystalline mining rights issue has been resolved, his aide reported, displaying the agreement on a holographic screen. Both parties accepted the human arbitration panel's recommendations without objection. Vel nodded, though he still found it difficult to believe how smoothly these negotiations proceeded under human oversight. Disputes that had seemed impossible to resolve were being settled within weeks, sometimes days. The humans had an uncanny ability to identify the root causes of conflicts and propose solutions that satisfied all parties. What made their success even more remarkable was their complete lack of self-interest in the outcomes. Unlike previous mediators who always seemed to gain something from their intervention, the humans asked for nothing except compliance with the agreements they helped create. The secret, Vel had learned, was their unprecedented knowledge of galactic affairs. The humans understood every species' psychology, every government's motivations, every economic pressure that drove political decisions. They could predict how each party would react to proposed solutions and craft agreements that appealed to everyone's interest. In the Kepler system, Lieutenant Hayes had traded his stealth reconnaissance ship for a much more visible role as a human diplomatic observer. His new vessel was a sleek courier ship that made regular runs between human installations and various alien worlds, carrying messages and facilitating communications. Another successful mediation, he reported to Director Walsh during his latest check-in. The Aquatic Commonwealth and the Frontier Alliance have agreed to establish joint patrols in the disputed sectors. No shots fired, no threats made, just reasonable beings working out reasonable solutions. Walsh smiled as she reviewed Hayes' report. The transformation in galactic politics had exceeded even their most optimistic projections. Species that had been enemies for generations were discovering that cooperation was more profitable than conflict. The key was showing them that we had nothing to gain from their disputes, Walsh explained to her staff during their weekly briefing. Once they realized we weren't trying to manipulate them for our own benefit, they became much more willing to accept our suggestions. The human approach to galactic governance was subtle but comprehensive. Instead of ruling through force or intimidation, they had made themselves indispensable. Every major trade agreement required human analysis to ensure fairness. Every territorial dispute needed human mediation to prevent escalation. Every potential conflict was diffused by human intervention before it could develop into something dangerous, but the humans had also demonstrated that their patience had limits. 3 months after their initial ultimatum, a radical faction within the Altarian military had attempted to launch a surprise attack on a crystalline research station. The attack had been stopped before it began by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. The incident had lasted less than 10 minutes. Human ships had disabled the attacking vessels without destroying them, captured the crew without harming them, and delivered them to Altarian authorities with complete documentation of their intended crimes. The message was clear, aggressive. Action would not be tolerated. Since then, there had been no further attempts to challenge human authority. The established powers had learned that resistance was futile, but they had also discovered that cooperation was rewarded with prosperity beyond anything they had previously achieved. Fleet Admiral Stone stood in the command center of her flagship, monitoring reports from across the galaxy. The 1,000 ships under her command had become symbols of stability rather than conquest. Their presence in various systems was welcomed by local populations, who had grown tired of living under the constant threat of war. Trade volume is up 40% from pre-intervention levels, reported her economic analyst. Piracy incidents have dropped to near zero. Border violations have been eliminated entirely. Stone nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy was finally learning to live in peace, not because they had overcome their natural aggression, but because they no longer had the option of expressing it through violence. The human fleet had become the galaxy's police force, but they were police officers who prevented crimes rather than punishing them after the fact. Their intelligence network was so comprehensive that they could identify potential conflicts before they developed, and intervene with just enough force to prevent violence. Any resistance movements forming? Stone asked. Nothing significant, her intelligence officer replied. Some grumbling among military hardliners, but no organized opposition. The younger generation seems to genuinely appreciate the stability we've brought. That was perhaps the most encouraging development. Beings who had grown up under the constant threat of galactic war were embracing peace with an enthusiasm that surprised their elders. Universities were teaching conflict resolution instead of military tactics. Trade academies were training diplomats. Instead of warriors, the galaxy was slowly but surely adapting to a new reality, where problems were solved through negotiation rather than violence. Director Walsh had relocated from Antarctica to a new facility on Luna, where she could better coordinate humanity's expanding role in galactic affairs. Her office overlooked Earth, a constant reminder of how far humanity had come since those first tentative steps beyond the solar system. The Galactic Council has formally requested that we establish permanent mediation centers on 50 worlds. Her assistant reported, "They're offering to fund the construction and staffing entirely." Walsh approved the proposal with a simple nod. The requests kept coming as more species discovered the benefits of human mediation. Disputes that had seemed irreconcilable were being resolved. Through careful analysis and patient negotiation, the humans had proven that peace was not only possible but profitable. Trade flourished when species could trust each other. Scientific research advanced when knowledge was shared freely. Cultural exchange enriched every civilization when fear was replaced by curiosity, but perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned that strength did not have to be used for conquest. Humanity possessed the most powerful military force in galactic history, yet they used it only to prevent violence rather than to expand their territory or extract tribute from weaker species. The 1,000 ships still orbited various worlds throughout the galaxy, quiet reminders of the power that backed human authority. But increasingly, they seemed less like occupying forces and more like guardians, protecting a peace that the galaxy had never been able to achieve on its own. The empty chair that had sat in the Galactic Council chamber for 50 years was finally occupied, though not in the way anyone had expected. Humanity had not joined galactic civilization as junior partners seeking acceptance from their betters. They had emerged as the dominant force with the wisdom to use their power responsibly. The galaxy had skipped humanity from every meeting for half a century. Now they could not imagine governing without them. Earth had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as the species that could see beyond the petty conflicts that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in recorded galactic history, it was a future without the shadow of inevitable war.